Every year, 6 million people visit Yosemite National Park. They come for the granite monoliths, the thundering waterfalls, the ancient sequoias. They come with cameras and hiking boots and the unshakable belief that they will return home with nothing but memories. Most of them do, but not all of them. Since 1851, over 1,600 people have died in America's national parks. Yosemite accounts for more than its share. Falls, drownings, exposure, heart attacks. The causes are documented, filed away, explained. But those are just the deaths we know about. The disappearances are different. No body, no explanation, no closure, just gone. In 2013, an experienced hiker named Stacy Ann Arras vanished on the Sunrise Lakes Trail. She was with her father and a group. She walked ahead. She never came back. Despite one of the largest search operations in park history, no trace of her was ever found. In 1981, Stacy Arras disappeared near the same area. Different person, same mystery, same silence from the wilderness. This is not a story about conspiracy theories or supernatural forces. This is about something far more unsettling. What happens when modern humans step into a place that simply does not care about them? Welcome to Yosemite, where beauty and death walk hand in hand, and the line between a perfect vacation and complete disappearance can be as thin as a single wrong turn. Yosemite National Park spans 1,200 square miles of the Sierra Nevada mountains in California. It contains granite cliffs that rise 3,000 feet straight up, waterfalls that drop nearly half a mile, and wilderness so remote that some areas have never been fully mapped. The park receives more visitors annually than the populations of Denmark and Norway combined. They come to see El Capitan, Half Dome, Yosemite Falls. They come for Instagram photos and family memories and the promise of touching something eternal. What they don't always understand is that Yosemite is not a theme park. It's not even really a park in the way most people think of parks. It's a fragment of the world as it existed before humans decided they could control everything. The granite here is 100 million years old. The valleys were carved by glaciers that moved like slow-motion tsunamis. The ecosystem operates on timescales that make human civilization look like a brief flicker. And every year, some people who enter this ancient world simply don't come back. The National Park Service doesn't like to talk about it. Tourism boards certainly don't advertise it, but the numbers are there, buried in incident reports and search and rescue logs. People vanish in Yosemite at a rate that should disturb anyone who plans to visit. The question isn't whether people disappear. The question is why. And the answer reveals something deeply unsettling about the gap between human confidence and natural reality. When you drive into Yosemite, you pay an entrance fee. You receive a map. You see signs, trails, visitor centers, gift shops. There are rangers, tour buses, hotels. There's cell service in the valley. There are restaurants and bathrooms and first aid stations. It feels safe. It feels managed. It feels like civilization has successfully tamed this place and made it suitable for families from Ohio and retirees from Florida and college students from everywhere. This feeling is an illusion, and it's a dangerous one. Yosemite Valley, where most visitors spend their time, represents less than 1% of the park. The other 99% is wilderness, real wilderness. The kind where a broken ankle can become a death sentence and a sudden storm can turn a day hike into a survival situation. But the human brain doesn't process this distinction well. We see the crowds, the infrastructure, the safety measures in the valley, and we assume that safety extends everywhere. We think that because there's a Starbucks in the visitor center, the entire park must be equally civilized. This cognitive error has consequences. In 2018, a family from India was visiting Yosemite Falls. They wanted a photo at the top of the waterfall. The father, Vishnu Viswanath, and his wife, Meenakshi Murthy, were experienced travelers. They had visited dozens of countries. They ran a travel blog. They understood risk, but they didn't understand Yosemite. They climbed over safety barriers to get a better photo angle. The granite near the waterfall is polished smooth by centuries of mist. It's slippery even when dry. When wet, it becomes essentially frictionless. They fell 800 feet. Both died instantly. The tragedy made international news, but not because it was unusual. It made news because it was so predictable. Park rangers see this scenario play out constantly. Visitors who treat Yosemite like a backdrop for their vacation photos, not realizing they're standing on the edge of an abyss. The illusion of safety in national parks is carefully constructed. It has to be. If people truly understood the risks, tourism would collapse. So the dangers are downplayed, minimized, hidden behind liability waivers, and gentle warnings that most people ignore. But the dangers are real, and they're waiting. Case 1. Stacy Ann Arras, 2013. Stacy Ann Arras was 14 years old when she disappeared on July 17, 2013. She was hiking the Sunrise Lakes Trail with her father and a group from a church camp. The trail is well marked, popular, considered safe for families. Around 2 p.m., Stacy walked ahead of the group. She was an experienced hiker, comfortable in the outdoors. Her father expected to catch up with her at the next trail junction. She was never seen again. The search began immediately. Park rangers, search dogs, helicopters, volunteers. They covered 1,200 square miles over 2 weeks. They found nothing. No clothing, no equipment, no footprints, no sign that she had ever existed. The case remains open. The family still searches. The Park Service still investigates tips. But after more than a decade, Stacy Ann Arras has simply vanished into the Sierra Nevada wilderness as completely as if she had never been born. Case 2. Stacy Arras, 1981. 32 years before Stacy Ann Arras disappeared, another person named Stacy Arras vanished in almost the exact same area. This Stacy was 14 years old as well. She was also hiking with her father. She also walked ahead of her group and was never seen again. The coincidence is unsettling, but it's just that, a coincidence. The two Stacys were not related. They didn't know each other. They just happened to disappear in the same wilderness, at the same age, under similar circumstances, 3 decades apart. What this tells us is not that Yosemite is cursed or haunted. What it tells us is that certain conditions in certain places create certain outcomes. The wilderness doesn't care about names or dates or the feelings of families left behind. It operates according to its own logic, and that logic is indifferent to human suffering. Case 3. Randy Morgenson, 1996. Randy Morgenson was not a tourist. He was a park ranger with 28 years of experience in the Sierra Nevada. He knew Yosemite better than almost anyone alive. He had rescued hundreds of lost hikers, recovered dozens of bodies, spent more time in the backcountry than most people spend in their own homes. On July 21, 1996, Morgenson left his ranger station for a routine patrol. He was supposed to return that evening. He didn't. The search for Morgenson was massive. Rangers who had worked with him for decades combed every trail, every creek, every hidden valley they thought he might have visited. They knew his habits, his routes, his favorite campsites. They found nothing. 5 years later, a hiker discovered Morgenson's body near a remote lake, miles from where anyone expected him to be. He had apparently fallen and died alone, but the location made no sense. There was no reason for an experienced ranger to be in that area. No trail led there. No patrol route included it. Even the experts, it seems, can be swallowed by Yosemite's vastness. Case 4. George Penta, 2011. George Penta was 30 years old, an experienced outdoorsman from Colorado. On June 17, 2011, he set out alone on a day hike to North Dome. It's a challenging but popular route, well within the abilities of someone with Penta's experience. He never returned to his car. Search teams found his footprints on the trail for the first few miles, then lost them completely. They searched for weeks, covering hundreds of square miles. They found no trace of Penta, his equipment, or any sign of what might have happened to him. The case is particularly puzzling because Penta was hiking a well-traveled route during peak season. Other hikers were on the trail that day. Someone should have seen something, but the wilderness kept it secret. Case 5. Joel Thomazin, 2021. Joel Thomazin was 31 years old when he disappeared on September 6, 2021. He was hiking alone near Yosemite Valley, planning to photograph the sunset from Taft Point. He was an experienced hiker and photographer who knew the area well. His car was found in the parking area. His camera equipment was missing, suggesting he had made it to his intended destination. But Thomazin himself was never found. The search involved multiple agencies, helicopters, ground teams, and technical rescue specialists. They covered the area around Taft Point exhaustively. They found nothing. What makes this case particularly unsettling is how recent it is. This isn't a mystery from decades past. This is a man who disappeared in the age of GPS, cell phones, and satellite imagery. He vanished as completely as if he had stepped through a portal to another dimension. These cases share common elements: experienced people, well-traveled areas, immediate search responses, and complete absence of evidence. They suggest that Yosemite's ability to make people disappear is not limited to the unprepared or unlucky. It can happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. The wilderness doesn't discriminate. Why people vanish? The human brain is not designed for wilderness. It evolved in small groups, in familiar territories, with clear landmarks and known dangers. It's optimized for social navigation, not spatial navigation. For avoiding predators we can see, not hazards we can't imagine. When modern humans enter true wilderness, they bring cognitive tools that are fundamentally inadequate for the environment they're entering. Consider the simple act of getting lost. In a city, getting lost is an inconvenience. You ask for directions, check your phone, find a landmark. In Yosemite's backcountry, getting lost can be a death sentence. The park contains over 800 miles of trails, but also thousands of square miles of trailless wilderness. The terrain is complex: granite domes, deep canyons, dense forests, alpine meadows. Landmarks that seem obvious from one direction can be invisible from another. Trails can disappear under snow, rockfall, or vegetation. GPS doesn't always work. Batteries die. Signals get blocked by granite cliffs. Even when technology functions perfectly, it can't account for human error. People input wrong coordinates, misread maps, follow the wrong trail. But getting lost is just the beginning. The real danger comes from what happens next. Panic is the wilderness killer. When people realize they're lost, their rational thinking often shuts down. They make increasingly desperate decisions, leaving the trail to take shortcuts, abandoning their gear to move faster, continuing to hike in darkness or bad weather. Each bad decision compounds the previous one. A day hike becomes an overnight ordeal. An overnight ordeal becomes a multi-day survival situation. A survival situation becomes a recovery mission. The statistics are sobering. In Yosemite, falls account for the majority of deaths. Not falls while rock climbing or attempting dangerous stunts, but falls while hiking on what seemed like safe terrain. Granite is deceptive. It looks solid and stable, but it can be loose, slippery, or unstable. A single misplaced step can send someone tumbling hundreds of feet. Water is another killer. Yosemite's rivers and waterfalls look beautiful in photographs, but they're fed by snowmelt and remain dangerously cold year-round. The current is stronger than it appears. The rocks are more slippery than they look. People who fall into Yosemite's waterways often don't come out. Hypothermia can occur even in summer. Temperatures in the high country can drop 40 degrees between day and night. A hiker who gets wet, lost, or injured can quickly become hypothermic, leading to poor decision-making and eventually unconsciousness. Wildlife encounters, while rare, can be fatal. Yosemite is home to black bears, mountain lions, and rattlesnakes, but the bigger danger comes from smaller threats: ticks carrying disease, contaminated water sources, poisonous plants that most visitors can't identify. Perhaps most insidiously, Yosemite kills through simple exposure. The park's vastness means that help can be days away, even from popular trails. A twisted ankle becomes life-threatening when you're 20 miles from the nearest road. A mild illness becomes serious when you can't get medical attention. Search and rescue teams do heroic work, but they have limitations. The park is too big, the terrain too complex, the weather too unpredictable. Even with helicopters, trained dogs, and sophisticated equipment, finding someone in Yosemite's wilderness is like finding a needle in a haystack the size of Rhode Island. And sometimes, despite everyone's best efforts, people simply vanish. Not because of supernatural forces or government conspiracies, but because the wilderness is vast and indifferent, and very, very good at keeping secrets. The dark psychology of wilderness. There's something profoundly disturbing about the way modern humans interact with wilderness. We've spent centuries building a civilization designed to protect us from nature's indifference. We have hospitals and police and fire departments. We have weather forecasts and emergency services and safety regulations. We've become so accustomed to this protection that we've forgotten what life was like without it. When people enter Yosemite, they bring the psychological assumptions of civilized life into an environment where those assumptions don't apply. They expect that if something goes wrong, help will come. They expect that the environment will be predictable, manageable, safe. These expectations can be fatal. Consider the psychology of risk assessment. In daily life, we constantly make risk calculations. Is it safe to cross this street? Should I drive in this weather? Is this neighborhood dangerous? We base these calculations on experience, social cues, and environmental feedback. But wilderness risk is different. The consequences are more severe. The feedback is delayed or absent, and our urban experience provides no useful reference points. A cliff that looks climbable might be deadly. A stream that looks crossable might be impassable. Weather that looks manageable might turn lethal. The human tendency toward overconfidence makes this worse. We see other people hiking the same trails, taking the same risks, and we assume that if they can do it safely, so can we. We don't see the near misses, the close calls, the times when luck was the only thing standing between a hiker and disaster. Social media amplifies this problem. People post photos from dangerous locations without mentioning the risks they took to get there. They share images of themselves on cliff edges, near waterfalls, in remote locations, creating the impression that these activities are safe and normal. The result is a kind of collective delusion. That wilderness is a playground, rather than a place where the wrong decision can kill you. There's also something deeper at work here, something that touches on fundamental questions about human nature and our relationship with the natural world. For most of human history, we lived in intimate contact with nature. We understood its rhythms, respected its power, knew our place within it. We developed cultures and religions that acknowledged our vulnerability and dependence on forces beyond our control. Modern civilization has largely severed that connection. We live in climate-controlled buildings, eat food grown by others, travel in vehicles that shield us from the elements. We've created the illusion that we're separate from nature, superior to it, immune to its laws. Yosemite shatters that illusion. In the wilderness, human technology and human arrogance mean nothing. Your college degree won't help you navigate by the stars. Your bank account won't keep you warm when the temperature drops. Your social media followers won't rescue you when you're lost. This confrontation with our own vulnerability can be psychologically devastating. People who are accustomed to feeling in control suddenly find themselves completely powerless. The cognitive dissonance can lead to panic, poor decision-making, and ultimately tragedy. But there's something else happening too. Something that might explain why people continue to seek out these dangerous places despite the risks. In a world that feels increasingly artificial and controlled, wilderness offers something that can't be found anywhere else. Authenticity, real consequences, real beauty, real danger, real life. The people who disappear in Yosemite aren't necessarily reckless or stupid. Many of them are seeking something genuine in a world that often feels fake. They want to test themselves against something real, to experience life without safety nets, to touch something wild and untamed. The tragedy is that wilderness doesn't care about our motivations. It doesn't distinguish between the prepared and the unprepared, the respectful and the arrogant, the lucky and the unlucky. It simply is what it is: beautiful, terrible, and utterly indifferent to human desires. When someone disappears in Yosemite, a machine activates. Not a literal machine, but a complex system of protocols, procedures, and people that has been refined over decades of tragedy. The Yosemite Search and Rescue Team responds to over 200 incidents per year. They are among the most experienced wilderness rescue specialists in the world. They know the park's terrain better than almost anyone. They have helicopters, trained dogs, thermal imaging equipment, and decades of collective experience. And yet they fail more often than they succeed. This is not a criticism of their abilities or dedication. It's a recognition of the mathematical reality they face. Yosemite covers 1,200 square miles of some of the most challenging terrain in North America. Much of it is accessible only on foot. Weather can change rapidly, making helicopter operations impossible. Terrain can be too steep or unstable for ground teams. The search for Stacy Ann Arras involved over 150 people, multiple helicopters, trained search dogs, and sophisticated equipment. They covered an area larger than many cities. They found nothing. The search for George Penka lasted weeks and covered hundreds of square miles. Experienced trackers followed his footprints for miles before losing them completely. It was as if he had simply vanished into thin air. These failures reveal something unsettling about the limits of human capability. We live in an age of GPS satellites and thermal imaging, of drones and artificial intelligence. We can track a cell phone anywhere on Earth, identify a face in a crowd of thousands, predict the weather days in advance, but we cannot find a missing person in the wilderness. The searchers themselves understand this reality in ways that the rest of us don't. They know that for every successful rescue, there are cases that remain unsolved. They know that the wilderness keeps secrets that no amount of technology or determination can unlock. There's a particular kind of haunting that comes with this work. Search and rescue personnel often return to the same areas years later, still looking for clues, still hoping for closure. They develop theories about what might have happened, but theories are not answers. The families of the missing live with a different kind of haunting. They exist in a state of perpetual uncertainty, unable to grieve properly because there's no body, no definitive proof of death. They organize their own searches, hire private investigators, follow up on every tip and rumor. Some never stop looking. The machine that searches is impressive in its scope and dedication, but it's also a reminder of human limitations. There are places in this world where our technology fails, where our expertise is insufficient, where our determination is not enough. Yosemite is one of those places. The wilderness doesn't care about our search protocols or our sophisticated equipment. It doesn't care about the families left behind or the questions that remain unanswered. It simply absorbs people into its vastness and keeps them there. And the machine keeps searching, because that's what machines do. But the wilderness keeps its secrets, because that's what wilderness does. Every year, millions of people visit Yosemite and return home safely. They see the waterfalls, climb the trails, take the photos, make the memories. They experience something beautiful and profound and life-changing, but some don't come back. This isn't because Yosemite is evil or cursed or hunting people. It's because Yosemite is wild, and wildness, by definition, cannot be controlled or predicted or made completely safe. The people who disappear in Yosemite become part of a larger story about the relationship between humans and nature in the modern world. They remind us that despite all our technology and confidence and civilization, we remain vulnerable to forces beyond our control. Their disappearances are not mysteries to be solved, but realities to be accepted. The wilderness keeps its secrets not out of malice, but out of indifference. It doesn't owe us explanations or closure or happy endings. What Yosemite offers instead is something more valuable and more dangerous: truth. The truth that we are not separate from nature but part of it. The truth that our control over the world is largely an illusion. The truth that beauty and danger are often the same thing. The truth that some questions don't have answers, and some people who walk into the wilderness don't walk back out. This is not a comfortable truth. It doesn't fit well with our modern assumptions about safety and control and the right to a happy ending. But it's a truth that our ancestors understood, and that we've largely forgotten. The families of those who disappear in Yosemite live with a particular kind of grief, the grief of not knowing. They search and hope and wait for answers that may never come. They carry the weight of uncertainty, the burden of endless possibility, but perhaps there's something to be learned from their loss. Perhaps the people who disappear in Yosemite are teaching us something important about the nature of existence itself. We live in a world that promises us safety, control, predictability. We're told that if we follow the rules, buy the right insurance, make the right choices, we'll be protected from harm. We're encouraged to believe that every problem has a solution, every mystery has an answer, every story has an ending. Yosemite tells a different story. It reminds us that we live in a universe that doesn't care about our plans, or our fears, or our need for closure. It shows us that some forces are bigger than we are, some places are wilder than we can imagine, and some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. The people who disappear in Yosemite become part of the wilderness itself. Their stories merge with the stories of the granite and the waterfalls and the ancient trees. They become part of something larger and older and more enduring than any individual human life. This is not a consolation. It's not meant to make anyone feel better about loss or uncertainty or the fundamental unfairness of existence. It's simply what is. Yosemite will continue to draw millions of visitors. Most will return home safely, carrying memories of beauty and wonder, but some will not return at all. They will join the ranks of those who walked into the wilderness and became part of it forever, and perhaps that's as it should be. Perhaps some places should remain dangerous. Perhaps some mysteries should remain unsolved. Perhaps some boundaries should not be crossed. Because in a world that increasingly feels small and mapped and controlled, we need places that remind us of our limits. We need wilderness that refuses to be tamed. We need beauty that comes with a price. We need places where people can disappear. Not because we want them to, but because we need to remember that they can. The wilderness is waiting. It's beautiful and terrible and utterly indifferent to our presence. It offers no guarantees, no safety nets, no promises of return. It offers only itself, wild, dangerous, and absolutely real. And for some people, that's enough.